Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Artist Spotlight podcast. I'll let you into a little secret here. When Origin writes the questions, he stitches me up with a few rhymes, and I do the same to him. Usually we dodge them, but it's too late for that now. So I'll introduce myself as the quick-minded, slick rhyming, quick writing, hit finding, sick vibing, fit writing, big guy with the mint timing. It's Wilko Wilkes.
And I'm Big OG, you know me. Origin across the Boston sits across from y'all's monitors.
Love it, man. Love what you're doing. That's some good writing that I've stolen off you. So thanks, everyone, for joining us again for another episode. This one's going to be a good one. If you've listened before, you'll know that we're interviewing some of the top artists from around the world in independent music, all of whom can be found on the New Artist Spotlight playlists and all a part of this community.
And don't forget to check out the website, newartistspotlight.org, where you can find those playlists, plus news, reviews, tips, and it's really just the place to go for independent artists everywhere.
Okay, so today's guest, I said it'd be a good one. It's a very exciting one. He's one of the moderators on the New Artist Spotlight servers. He's an electronic artist. Please help us welcome to the show, the one and only Mercury Teardrop.
Hey, nice to see you guys. Nice to see the whole NAS family. This is great. Really excited to spend some time with you.
Likewise,
it's good to meet you.
I clearly got no rhyme game. None.
Well, can you not do something for us now on the fly, no?
Oh, nothing on the fly. Nope.
All right, now we got to get a freestyle segment going and everybody comes on and has to do it.
I would love it. Love it.
Oh, that's evil.
Unprepared.
All right, so of course, me and Wilko, we know about your music, we know about you. But for anyone who isn't familiar, could you tell us a little bit about Mercury Teardrop?
Yeah, you bet. This is Mercury Teardrop is a funny little side project for me. I've been a musician all my life. I haven't played professionally at all. Hobby, guitar player since I was a kid. Played in lots of different little bands here and there. But obviously, back in the day, I'm an old dude. So going back 30 years recording, you had to go into a studio or you had to know somebody with a studio. And in those bands, we wrote some songs, wrote a bunch of stuff down. And way back in the day, have Logic. We had cassette tapes and 4-tracks. So there's my stack of 4-tracks. And the pandemic gave me a chance to kind of go back and go, man, I had some song ideas back then. And Mercury Teardrop was an outlet to kind of let a few of those ideas come to life. I'd always wanted to get more into electronic music. I'm a guitar player by experience, and sort of push myself to, I've always loved the genre of electronic music, but never had the chance to goof around with synthesizers and actually dig in and learn how some of it works. So it was just a really cool way for me to do something that, songs that would never find expression in a band context, I was able to bring into Mercury Teardrop as a project. So that's really where it's come from.
I like that, mate. And I just want to say as well, I'm a massive fan of your music. Like, it's quality, mate.
Really?
Yeah, very much enjoy it.
Oh, man. That's cool. Thank you.
Every time we interview someone on these podcasts, I listen to the full catalogue, really, and
really
get a feel for the music. Yeah. And I've really enjoyed listening to your albums, man.
Thank you.
The album, I can't think what it's called, but I'm just looking at my Spotify on my liked songs that I loved. There's a few tracks: Hypnotic Vision, Shapeshifter, Noise in a Vacuum, and Epoch. Quality tracks, mate. What was it? What was the album?
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, Noise in a Vacuum.
Blinded by a Dark Star.
Yeah, that's class, mate. Yeah, I love that. And I like all your artwork as well, is right up my street.
Yeah, the artwork is really dope too. I was thinking that too, and I was like going through. I'm like, oh, this is really creative. Where do you get that done, or who does it? Or
I do it all. I do it all. I mean, I've had some great collaborators. You can tell. I mean, a few of the tracks have female vocals on it, and I've enlisted some of my friends and other artists from different places around the world that I've connected with somehow. Noise in a Vacuum was actually sung by a colleague of mine, and who has her own band and work she's doing. So it was really cool to get someone to bring the song to life, because I can't sing. I've tried, and it just doesn't work. I sound like Neil Young on a bad day. So there you go. It's just one of those things. And I knew these tracks I could never bring them to life the way that some of these vocalists could. So it was really cool to collaborate on that. But the album artwork, I've done it all with just digital tools, Photoshop, and taken in some different, ideas that I had for something. I can't draw great, but digitally I can do some things okay. And that was sort of the inspiration for it, taking some photography and then digitizing it, and just visions for the artwork. But one of the things I'll get into in a little bit is just sort of, this has been kind of the journey back, as I sort of say, going back to the old 4-track tapes and things that I had from, the younger days, the university days. It was really nostalgic for me. It was a bit of a trip back down memory lane. And I still listen to a lot of the artists that I listened to back then, but the influence was huge. So you look at that album, Blinded by a Dark Star, you can feel the Radiohead influences. You can feel you can feel a bit of the, Gary Newman, like some of those 80s synthy vibes that are there. And that really, I hope, comes out. That was what I was kind of after, was a way for me to express myself through the music that I really loved.
Yeah, and I think you nailed that, mate.
So it's cool. It's cool you dig it. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks very much.
On these different interviews, Wilko always likes to offer us up as rap collaborators for any of the artists, right? So when I heard that song, and I'm like, the intro, I'm like, I can rap to this.
Nice.
Me and Wilko are gonna have to get on this remix. Like, this is, like, I was feeling that beat.
Well, there's one on there, and I used an old 808. But there's a track on there called Blind. It's the title track from the album, Blinded by a Dark Star. It's got probably the most hip hop potential of the whole thing. You could probably rap over that one. I think it's track 4. But it's got some stuff. I'm a huge Massive Attack fan, and they do the production is just so killer, and they just bring in some incredible rhymes, and I just love their stuff. So I'm kind of looking at a trip hop remix of my most current track, which is Abyss. And I know that would take it in a completely different direction, but there's some things I'm working on there. So it's not that hip hop's out of my vocabulary. It's certainly not my comfort zone. But I grew up, listening to like Beastie Boys, NWA, like that sort of stuff, Diggable Planets, stuff back in the 90s that was kind of the emergence of that sort of alternative kind of hip hop that was just killer. It was just killer. And it's had some influence on me for sure. Beastie Boys for sure. Those were the days. I loved it.
Yeah. So
took it all in.
I agree with Origin, and the one thing he did miss out is that our price is a low price of just £1 million.
Okay.
Yeah. So
make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Especially, I think we're as excited about this as you are now. So
that's cool.
I'll wait for the check.
Well, hey, I'm totally flattered that this is something I never expected, that people would actually be, engage with the music and really listen to it. So it really warms my heart that, you took the time to do that.
Yeah, it's great.
It's a personal thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
Yeah.
I like that about music as well, the way other people kind of develop relationships with your track. And I'll also commend you as well on being the, I think this must be about the 4th or 5th guest in a row we've had with guitars hanging on the wall at the back.
It's what us old dudes do.
Yeah, it's getting there now, mate. So take us right back to the start then, like when you first started listening to music, when you're just a young boy. What sort of captured your imagination, and what was like the first music you really fell in love with?
Yeah, you know what, I think I have to say, it's going to sound so cliche and it's going to sound brutal. Anyone of my vintage, which is sort of the over 50 crowd, and your guitar player, it was Jimmy Page. I heard Zeppelin for the first time, and it was just like, that's what I want to do. I got to do that. And, I sort of grew up on a really good diet of classic rock, lots of Fleetwood Mac, Rod Stewart, that sort of stuff. Little bit of jazz, a little bit of funk. It was the 70s, right? So just amazing music. And I was, kind of surrounded by that classic rock of the day, the Beatles, Paul McCartney and Wings. So that stuff really influenced me, but it wasn't until I heard Zeppelin that I just was like, I got to play guitar. So I'm going to do the cliche, it's Jimmy Page that got me going.
Love that. Have you ever thought about growing the long curly hair, or did you have that already?
Oh, I've done all that.
Yeah, good.
They're done it. Yeah,
you'll need to send some pics over. We'll need to see that.
Yeah. If I can find them, nothing's digital. Got to remember my day.
Mate.
Nothing.
You can just take a picture of it on your phone, mate. Come on, get with the times.
Yeah, I'll see if that's true. That's true. All right, I'll send something over.
Yeah.
All right, so the first Mercury Teardrop song on Apple Music is from 2020, correct?
Yeah, so that was the first foray into it. As I said, I sort of brought these ideas together over the pandemic, and I had a little bit of extra time, like most people, to get in there and do some recording. I had done some mixing and recording for other project that I'm in, an actual band. So I mean, I'd had some experience, but never considered sort of doing my own thing. And it was a lovely outlet to just sit back, play around. And once I got a little bit of confidence in feeling that these tracks had potential, I didn't think, the first album was all sort of ambient electronic, not really ambient, but kind of instrumental, a bit more Tangerine Dreamish and sort of that sort of character. But I wanted to use analog synths, wanted to play around with old school analog equipment. I have a ton of guitar pedals and stuff like that. So putting the synths through some of that analog stuff just sounded so cool, and I could get some of those sounds that were so deep within me that I was going, this is great. And I learned some really neat tricks. And as you do the YouTube dives, right? You go down and you start seeing production aspects of using different instruments, different tips and tricks. And I really started to enjoy what I was learning. So it kind of went off from there, but never went down that path to think that I would actually be putting the music out. But thought, what the heck? I mean, it's just something that I thought I need to do. And now those songs are out to the world. So
are you one of these?
It's been great, but that was sort of 2020.
Sorry. So are you one of these that's staying up till 3 a.m. all the time, and just constantly thinking about the music and constantly working on it and struggling to even focus on other things at some times?
Yeah, it was little chunks. And I think for a lot of, I do think about it a lot, and I'll get ideas and I'll scribble the ideas down, or I'll do a voice memo on something, or I'll play something really quick. I use that music memos all the time. So it's like, I got an idea for a riff, or I got an idea for something. I'll grab the guitar, just put that idea away and tuck it away like a scrapbook, and then come back to it when I can. But but that time, I mean, I wasn't, I was still working all through the pandemic with my day job, but it certainly afforded a bit more time at home to do the production in the studio, to lay down tracks. And I'm pretty fortunate. I mean, I can crank my guitar amps and stuff like that, and mic everything, and I'm not bothering anyone. So, my family sort of turns a blind eye to it, which is lovely. But yeah, no, that was how it got going. And it was just a way to see these songs, find an avenue or an outlet into the world.
That's what you need, mate. A very patient family who just turn a blind eye.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great, man. So how did you come up with the actual name Mercury Teardrop? Is there any story behind that?
There's always a story, right? So it's funny. So I mentioned the cassettes I was going through, and I actually have it here. This was one of my old band's first demos, and the first track on it, it's called Mercury Teardrop. And as I was going through, and I don't know what to call this or whatever, I saw that and I'm like, and it was kind of cheesy back then. We were doing all the stuff that was kind of the artwork of the 80s, where you kind of do crazy stuff. And we had this drawing of like a face with this Mercury teardrop coming down on it. And it was kind of, a nice layer of cheese on it too. But it had nostalgic feel for me, just that was not only a memory, but it was something that a good group of guys, we were trying to make some music at the time. And we actually recorded that in a studio for a local contest here in Vancouver for a radio station. It's called Vancouver Seeds, way back in the, I guess it was the early 90s. And it never made it, but we entered it, right? So you had to go to a studio, you had to record, you had to do all that stuff. And I think we spent, I want to say $500 a piece, and it was about $2,000 to record the demo. but it never saw the light of day. And then I found it. And this was sort of cleaning through stuff, but about 400 hours of 4-track tracks on tape that I haven't, some of the stuff, the first album saw probably Apparitions of the Dying Moon. That was the majority of those were ideas I took from the 4 tracks. And the song Prism, which is the first track on Apparitions for a Dying Moon, that guitar riff that's there, that I've had since about 1987. So it was cool to see the light of day.
It has to be right after like so much time just being created but never being viewed or consumed, and it just finally gets to get out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like so many artists, we do this for ourselves first and foremost, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's still for ourselves in that sense, though, right? We get to let somebody kind of see more of ourselves when we created it for us, and now we get to share a piece of us with the world.
That's nice, that origin. I like that.
Yeah, that's really good. I look at the kids now that we got some of these younger artists that are putting out just some amazing stuff, and I think of what they've got at their fingertips. What we've got at our fingertips now. The fact you can go on a computer and do some pretty amazing production, in your bedroom. Back in the day, that was a $2,000 recording in a recording studio back then. And then you had to send it off to distributors. Someone had to actually like it. And you had to get a label. So, I mean, the industry has just changed so much, which is so cool. It's just now there's this avenue for art to find its way into the world that's just so much easier than it used to be before, which is great.
Absolutely. And so reading through a little bit of your like Spotify bio and different places, you mentioned the sonic palette of your album, Blinded by a Dark Star.
Yeah.
So when you go into creating an album, do you go in with an idea of what particular sound you want that album to have, or are you just kind of creating and putting the pieces together in a way that works?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think so. I think there was certainly, a feel I was having for that particular group of songs. And I'm thinking back to kind of, early 90s, bit of the Radiohead stuff. There was bands in the 80s. I don't know how much you know about bands like Japan, David Sylvain, Richard Barbieri, who was in Japan, was the keyboardist, and just had some amazing, these reverberating synth sounds that were just, otherworldly. So I kind of wanted to get into some of that sort of feel there. And Noise in a Vacuum is probably a good one where, you just feel a lot of space, a lot of reverb. And part of that was just to give an atmosphere, right? And that was the atmosphere I was kind of envisioning when I created those tracks. So a lot of analog stuff. I mean, one of the things, as much as I might say this is an electronic venture, most of the sounds that you hear that aren't specifically synthesizers are all done with guitar. So I do a lot of the atmospherics with guitars, big reverberating chords, things that I can kind of play with and modulate. So that was fun to experiment with that, but I'd sort of been inspired a lot by, groups like Radiohead that were, in the 90s, certainly, I think it was just re-released. They've done the Kid A and Amnesiac sort of combo. They've got all the deep cuts that weren't released, and they've got a whole bunch of stuff that's just been out. But that era was sort of that dystopian kind of worldview that, it sounded dark, it sounded mysterious, and it sounded really unsettling. And so there's some parts of that I wanted to draw into the music as well. But it was, a lot of it was very spontaneous too. One of the things that I try and do every time when I record is actually play the song. I'm not big on doing the loops and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'll use a drum loop. I've got an old Boss drum machine that I throw on every once in a while just for a backtrack. And if I can get it sounding good, then I'll use it as the basis for the drums. Some of the drums are live, but I try and play the track all the way through like a song. That's just the way I, sort of grew up. You learn to play songs. And so you'll notice there's probably some mistakes in there, but I kept them in, and it was just a really fun thing for me to be able to do. And I also want to one day be able to maybe play some of this stuff live. So wanted to make sure it was reproducible if it ever found a stage somewhere.
Yeah, you should do that, man. It's interesting to hear about your recording process there, because I think the temptation is, like you were saying, there's so much technology at your fingertips. The temptation is just to make everything perfect, and like kind of a little bit about what we were saying earlier on. But it's cool that you don't do that. And yeah, I was going to ask about playing live. Are you able to play it all as one piece in? Because I've noticed there's like different layers and different instruments and solos and things like that. Do you kind of stack up the tracks and you'll have to hit a couple of buttons and then play the synth parts?
Yeah, for sure. For recording, there's some tracks that, I've done like 6 different guitar tracks on it and that sort of stuff, 6 different synths. Obviously, to do that live, it would have to be re-envisioned a little bit, right? Yeah. And I mean, I've played a lot. I've played in a cover band fairly recently for the last 4 years. We're not playing together anymore since the pandemic. Obviously, live stuff shut down. But, that gave me a chance to really kind of rehone the live chops, if you will, and able to play live and just remembering all the stuff that can go wrong with the gear, strings break, all that sort of stuff. So it was really fun getting back into playing live. And, as much as we were a cover band, we played stuff from the 60s right through to current stuff. And it was just great to be out there doing it. So I can envision now what I would need to take from these songs to do them live, right? Because there's certain subtle things you're not going to hear in a live context where you need to figure out what do you extract from that track, when you're not listening in headphones, that's going to sound good with the live audience. And I think I could do that with a bunch of them.
Cool. So now you're on this journey, you got your Mercury Teardrop, you're putting your music out. What draws you to NAS in the first place? And why stick around and be a mod and put in work with the community?
Oh, it's a great question. I found out about it through Ed. I think Ed and I can't remember where we hooked up. I want to say, but I can't remember completely if it was on Submit Hub, but I think it might have been. And I sort of knew Ed from chatting back and forth. I didn't know anything about NAS at the time. And then I came across it, I think, on social media, and I reached out to Ed and just said, "Hey, what is this?" And he invited me in, which was great. Never looked back. And I saw right away, not only the potential within the community, but met some great people right off the bat. Started chatting, people complimenting each other on stuff, but also just recognized pretty quick there's some amazing talent in this family. Like it's insane. Like some people are putting out, this is stuff that needs to be heard, right? So I mean, it's not with any embellishment that these are some of the best indie artists out there. There's no doubt. I listen to what you guys do. Poverty in the UK, man, that should be on everything. Psycho, 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 great song. This stuff that people are putting out is quality, and I don't think there's a single artist there, and that doesn't deserve to be heard. So for me, I'm really not in it for myself. I mean, I'm not making any money from the music. It's a passion project for me, but I really get jazzed up with helping people realize their dream, or if somebody can, this notion of collaborating is just massive. I don't know if you heard one of the tracks I did, Nemesis, actually collaborated with an artist from Moscow that I connected with outside of NAS. And she just had this voice that drew me in. But look at today, we can go and hook up, through just a text message or something and say, "Hey, what do you think about collaborating?" And artists all over the place are doing that, right? Never been in the same room, probably won't be in the same room with her, but we put this great track together that we're really proud of. So I look at NAS sort of the same way. So you look at what Charles is doing doing some amazing production and mixing and mastering of NAS artists. And it's this momentum in the community that I find just so exciting. And I really want to help people. So I guess that's where I sort of don't mind putting the time and energy in to be a mod. And I'm really proud that Ed's allowed me that opportunity. So
Yeah, no, it's interesting to hear about all that, mate, and it's nice to put a face behind the name today as well.
Hey, thank you.
See, a man I've seen on Instagram many a time. I've seen your picture many a time. Yeah, it's cool, man. I like with New Artist Spotlight how you really get to know like other artists. There's people on there that I know that I'll be following for years. I'll see all of their releases. It's really cool,
absolutely, man. Absolutely. I've made some really nice connections with people, and it just, it's the like-mindedness. Like, I think everyone there came to music maybe for different reasons, but we're there because of music, and we all love music, and it does something for us, right? So you're there with like-minded people. It's just it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's it, man. And so what's what your actual like main when you did start, was it literally just I want to get these songs down, I want to get them out of my head, and I want to get them recorded in time, and is that still the same, or have you got like new aspirations as you've gone on and you've learned more, or have you got like a more of a hunger for it, or like where do you see yourself going with it all?
Yeah, that's cool. It's a great question. I think at the beginning you kind of nailed it. I think it was there was a bit of, I got to get this out. Once I had the idea to start putting some of this stuff down and getting it out, that was sort of it. I had, I'm sort of a project minded guy. So I put the project plan in place and just hit it. And that was it in the beginning for sure. But now it feels a little more, got a lot of freedom now. If I'm writing new stuff, like the new track Abyss I just wrote, probably started it back in December or January of last year, and back a bit. And it was really cool to sit on an idea for a while and play around with it. So now it's feeling more like new ideas, fresh ideas, and being able to create, as opposed to I have all this old stuff that I got to get out or that I got to get out of my system. So yeah, I'm into a bit of a place where I'm probably in a more creative mindset and not in a rush. So if stuff's good and maybe a little more paying attention to quality for me, being a little more of a gatekeeper of what's going to be good and what isn't. So I've loaded up about probably, I've got about 50 or 60 tracks that are sitting there with really rough ideas that to work from and pull from over the next while, but nothing in the works right now.
Right. I'm slightly jealous. You've got 60 ideas on the go, but maybe that's why there's nothing in the works right now. yeah. I get what you're saying though. It's I think I'm at the same point where I'm not releasing as many as quickly, but that's because in the meantime I'm learning a lot and I'm refining what I'm doing and trying to up the quality and trying to there's so much to learn, isn't there, once you throw yourself into music in this digital age. And it's like but it's interesting, isn't it? It keeps you going. There's so much to learn. It's mad when you have those moments where something just clicks and you can read something 20 30 times and you don't get it, and then when you finally need it that one time and you do it and you're like, oh wow, right, this explains that and that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, especially with the mixing and stuff.
Bang on. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I'm into the plug-in rabbit hole right now. I'm trying to figure out which ones will do different things just from a production standpoint. And it's endless. It's just a bottomless pit. And then, we got
having your guitar pedals as well. Now, I thought you must have that thing where you're like, I've got to record at least one track with each of these pedals. Otherwise, why have I bought it?
Exactly. Yeah. And
don't spend too much, mate, on the plugins that the family's got to eat.
Trying to do a little bit budget minded, but you're right with the plugins, especially when you get some of the higher end stuff, it can be a fortune to stack it up.
I've not bought any plugins, by the way.
So I'm keeping it simple.
I'm working on what Logic's got. Like, there's a lot there. So I'm staying out of the plugin game because I've seen
they're good. There's a ton
how addicted
there.
People get.
But the one that I think is worth the money is Valhalla Reverb. Unbelievable. Valhalla Vintage Verb is just fantastic.
I've heard the effects and it's pretty impressive, but I still can't bring myself to
it's just amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
So, Brad, I wanted to know, like, what's the absolute pinnacle for you? Like, what could be like the greatest experience for you with Mercury Teardrop?
I would love to have, I guess, a track that I can use for good. I don't know if I've shared this already. I'm forgetting. Last track, or the track I did before Abyss, Nemesis. I've donated all the royalties to support youth experiencing homelessness.
That's awesome, man.
And that sort of stuff is really what I would like to be able to do. That the music does something for good. And I think for me, the part that would be most satisfying from a musical standpoint would just be to have a track that just really resonates with me. As much as I want the audience to like it, I want to be really, really proud of it. I know I can keep getting better. I know I can keep refining my songwriting. And I think it's more just, it's a passion project. So if it can do some good out there and if people like it, great. But I also am trying to push myself to be better and to put some better music into the world. So
that's cool, man.
That's my hope. Just something that sounds really good.
Yeah.
That's it.
I like that about NAS as well. Like you hear all the other different artists, it gives me a push. I'm like, wow, this sounds so good. And I think that's another thing that you get with NAS that you don't get with mainstream music, is that a lot of the artists here are learning on the job and they're trying new things and they're doing new like pans and width and all this stuff that you're hearing the progression from release to release. And it's almost like you're on that journey with them, and I pick up ideas and I'm like, yeah, that sounds so good. I need that in my track. And it's
exactly.
Awesome.
No, I'm totally with you on that. You listen to like a couple of ones I've been listening to lately. I've been listening to Coastal Town's new track, and those guys are killing it. They sound great. JHM's new track, Into the Wilderness. What a brilliant track, right? Just sounds great. I mean, it speaks to me. It's that 90s sort of awesome REM-ish kind of guitar, which you can see I got the Rickenbacker up there in the box. I love that stuff. But he just, I think really, really nailed that one. So yeah, you see the progression, and we listen to all the songs on there. So, it's pretty neat to kind of get fueled off that energy, because you see how others are doing. Ed putting out that some of the artists are getting onto curated playlists and Spotify playlists.
Speaking
and whatnot.
of Ed, in progression, like his latest song.
Totally. Oh, Bye is just killer.
It's awesome.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay. Ed, I see you.
Yeah.
It was huge, isn't it?
He was so excited about it, and he was pushing it so hard. Yeah. I'm like, okay, we get excited about our songs. When it came out, I'm like, oh, I get it. I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing, that guy. Likes to pretend he doesn't, but he knows exactly what he's doing, that guy. Amazing.
He knows exactly what he's doing. I mean, that's got a sing-along chorus like nothing else, right? I said to him, that's like the American Pie of an NAS song. It's just great. It's awesome. The more I listen to it, it just, the production's fantastic and songwriting's great. And it's just, to do something new and kind of blues rock is not easy. And that feels fresh, right?
Yeah, so and it goes back to what you were saying as well about like the modern day, like, because there's no way 20 years ago or 30 years ago he would have been able to make that track at home. It would have cost him thousands of pounds to make that track, hiring in musicians and doing all this.
Exactly. Yeah, no. It is certainly a different era right now for music and creativity, which I think is really exciting. Right. I mean, the limitations can sometimes push you. And I think it pushed those of us that were into music back in the day. It certainly was a struggle to get anything recorded. My first 4-track, I think, cost me $1,200, which was huge back then. You could buy a car for $1,200. But it was like, that was what you had. That was your tool. And you had 4 tracks, and you had to, I remember layering tracks. It was just a different era, but now it's pretty exciting what you can do in a home studio.
It definitely is. Like, there's so much progression and just growth for independent artists, like what they're able to achieve without having to spend so much money to develop and hone the craft. like they can do it all in real time, kind of concurrently. And then just the things that you can do now that you just couldn't do before. It's all just amazing. And like
mind blowing, isn't it?
To
It's
see
mind
it,
blowing.
especially from like as a elder statesman kind of in this, you
There you
been
go.
on
That's
both
official
sides
now.
of the coin, right?
Yeah,
So
no doubt. Oh, it's really wild to see. And I look at the past 30 years, and even the early days of let's say the early 2000s, when DAWs were just coming on stream in terms of being accessible at home. Their first versions of Pro Tools. I remember looking at that and thinking, oh man, I can't. I think it was $800 for it back then. And I was thinking of getting into it back then, but just the cost of entry in those early days to get a home studio set up was still pretty restrictive. And now, I mean, you look at laptops coming with built-in DAWs. GarageBand opened up probably a whole new world for young artists when it came out, right? So the accessibility, I think, is just insane. And the fact you can collaborate, right? You've got people that you can chuck your stems to that are professional engineers and whatnot that can do a mix for you. That's crazy, right? Just didn't have access to that before. So it's an exciting time.
Definitely. So you talk a lot about artists that you've listened to, grew up with, have had some influence on you. Is there one artist that you can say has had the biggest influence over you or your sound, or even just wanting to make music?
Oh, that's a great question. It's so hard to pick, and I'm sure you understand how hard that would be. But I would probably say in the modern day, I gotta say Radiohead, and I feel, I mean, there's so many I'm leaving out. I've been so heavily influenced by like Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins, that whole early 90s heavy rock I was very into. There's so much that Radiohead has done that actually has influenced the way I want to play, that maybe that's where it's found my way in. I mean, I did that cover of a Depeche Mode song, and Depeche Mode are absolutely part of my youth, like, early 80s. I've been into them right since their second album. So that was like high school for me when that stuff came out. Tears for Fears, some of those bands of the early 80s, Bauhaus, Love and Rockets, which came after Bauhaus with some of the same members. Those sounds were just insane. And then I saw U2 in '83 on the War Tour here, when they were still relatively small, not playing stadiums. That blew my mind. So, it's easy for me to say Radiohead, but that's a more current, influence, I would say, in the last 20 years. But if I go way back, like U2 had a massive influence on me. And then before that, obviously Zeppelin. So maybe it was in each decade I had these influences that really captivated me, right? So they find my way in, they find their way into the stuff that I'm trying to do, without a doubt.
Yeah, it all assimilates, doesn't it? And Radiohead as well. I've only in the last year or so, I re-listened to OK Computer. The first time I listened to it when I was younger, I was like, I didn't really rate it. I thought it was all right, but I didn't really get it. And then I listened to it again last year, and I was like, wow, this is a really, really good album. And then I went delving into Radiohead and watched a few of their gigs and stuff like that. And I've got a far bigger appreciation of Radiohead these days than I used to. I don't know if it's something about that, like your tastes changing as you get older as well, and maybe you expect it a little bit more, and they just kind of give it to you in spades, and you're like, wow, this is the depth of what they do is incredible. So I mean, we can hear that influence in your music. So we've been waxing lyrical about it. I think it's about time that we listen to it. So can you tell us a bit about the track first? It's called Abyss, released in September. I love it. It went straight in my library when it was released. And tell us a bit about it.
probably the most recent song I've written and been able to sort of see through. I had the idea because I was writing a lot of stuff down about mental health, and that's been front and center with the pandemic. I didn't want it to be kind of a pandemic song. It wasn't necessarily, the pandemic wasn't the catalyst for the song, but I work a lot in the education field with youth that struggle and people that were struggling, and we try and help those that are going through it. And I think just that whole notion that we got to remove the stigma around mental health and be able to talk about it. And Abyss was one of those inner things. It wasn't sort of a personal journey, but it was reflective of some of the things I was seeing around me with people, and I think it's about, when you're falling or when you're sinking and you're going to that dark place, how do you get out? Right? What does it take to get out? And that's kind of what the track's about, is that struggle to find some help and to reach out, and the courage. So, it was a bit of a personal song for sure, in terms of what I was seeing. I was just writing about what I was sort of seeing and sensing and feeling. But it really is a bigger area of awareness for me, in just my entire life. Like, just the well-being of people around me is really important to me, and just being attuned with that. So the track reflects sort of where I'm at in my own journey with helping people with mental health challenges.
That's awesome, man. And it's a message I like to put out there as well. And that's great. I mean, I already love the track, so it's nice to hear more about the message behind it as well.
Thanks. It's a bit self-indulgent to put something out that was 9 minutes, but I kind of had it envisioned in sort of these multiple parts, and I wanted it to be kind of a very dynamic track, in a sense that it kind of got heavy in parts, and for
me it was a little bit proggy. You not mentioned any prog artists in the what you said, but did you like any prog?
Oh yeah, no, I'm actually, I didn't mention it as a major influence, but one of the bands of the 90s that really influenced me was Porcupine Tree, and all of Steven Wilson's work I just love. So that's definitely in there as well. You can tell I listen to a lot of different music, so it finds its way in there. But that felt more natural, getting back to the guitar and really, cranking the amp and going for it.
If you check the hashtags under some of your Instagram posts, it definitely does say prog and prog rock on there.
There you go.
I don't read the hashtags. People read the hashtags.
Do your research, man.
Exactly.
Man. I just glaze over the hashtags. I don't even filter out when I read a post.
You gotta look at the deep, dark sides of the guests, so that when you come on here, you can really pull it apart and get that good stuff, man.
I'm always impressed. I have to say that with watching all the podcasts, just how much you dig into the artists and get a sense for who they are before you get into the chat. That's really impressive. And I love it. I love watching it. So it's a pleasure to be on today. Yeah,
good. That's similar actually to what your Auntie Linda said to me earlier on when I was on the phone to her, asking her about your the boomerang that you used to have.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good research.
Let's move forward a little bit, so we can hear all this talent that we've been talking about with the song. Let's take a listen to it. So if you would like to introduce it, please do.
Yeah. So everyone, this is Abyss.
tight now, don't let me go. This moment here wants us to linger around. I tripped to my soul, now I'm alone. The sound of fear slowly fades away. Be the one to rescue me, be the one to rescue me, be the one to rescue me. Oh, oh, be the one. How many times do I need to find the way back into my distorted mind? Darkness all around me now as I fall into the abyss, to the abyss.
9 minutes later.
9 minutes. Oh my goodness! I remember when I went to go listen to it like earlier today, and like I'm like 9 minutes, and I'm like, oh well, gotta listen to it. Turned it on, and I'm listening. I'm like, all right. But then by the end of it, it didn't feel like it was 9 minutes.
Hey, that's a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of songs can be 4 or 5 minutes, and you feel like the song goes on forever.
Yeah. 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 That was I didn't feel that it felt long. I was actually surprised it was 9 minutes when I actually bounced the track out for the first time. I was like, really? Didn't even feel like that when I was sort of putting it together.
I thought it was like 2 minutes. You're just getting lost in it every time.
Exactly.
It is a track that you can get lost in though. And thanks for letting us play that. Like, really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So you've mentioned earlier on about the cover art that you design yourself. Is that another one of yours?
Yeah, it's a photo that I had, a black and white photo, and then I sort of put it through some filters and things. So yeah, I'm using some fairly simple, straightforward Photoshop type tools to put it together. So it's nothing extravagant. But it's sort of, I like the image.
Got some talent there. It's better than I could do.
Thanks.
Photoshop
Or me, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite inspiring to see actually. Like a lot of your artwork is. I'm actually going through a little piece of work at the moment where I'm redesigning some artwork for Wilko Wilkes. I'm going to redesign my logo and get some artwork for the website and stuff. And it's of a similar vibe, like black with the sort of neon colors and the cosmic scenes and stuff. I love that sort of thing. So
right on.
Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks. No, that's great. I'm glad it resonates. You never know. I think my kids thought it was pretty cheesy, but there you go.
That's kids for you. There's no accounting for taste.
Something that I like to ask, just to kind of see where other artists are coming from, right? So as an artist, do you have a particular message or theme behind your work? Like, is there something you want people to take from it and connect to when they're listening?
I really don't know. Again, I think if something resonates with people in the music, that makes me happy. That's great. And I know there's going to be people that aren't going to necessarily be into that sort of sound and maybe not find that vibe. But I know there's people out there like me that enjoyed the same kind of music growing up, or maybe it's introducing those sounds to like the sounds of an analog synthesizer are maybe not as frequently used in today's music. So much stuff is digitized, high production value. Analog's analog. I just went and plugged it in. I'm going through just a regular audio interface. It's a decent one, but this is pretty analog stuff. Like aside from some of the things that I might use in some of the Logic plugins that are digital representations, that's very rare. I'm trying to use mostly analog equipment. So I think that sound just has something to it. And maybe it resonates with people out there in the way it does with me. So that's my only hope, is that people find something or maybe find some inspiration to it. But no, it's been a blast. I absolutely love doing this. It's been a nice creative outlet. And more to come for sure.
Yeah, that's good, man. Is analog synthesizer one of the hashtags you use?
It should be. I failed miserably. I'm not sophisticated on social media. So when you see that bunch of hashtags there, I've searched hashtags for something and then it comes up. Like, I'm not doing anything sophisticated there. Yeah. Need to hire a PR person.
Yeah. £1 million sound all right? Or?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so we've reached the stage in the show, which is the new stage. You're the second ever participant of the NAS Quickfire 5.
Oh, okay. I'll buckle up.
As the rules go, you'll only have 15 seconds to give each answer. They won't be easy, and we won't be easy on you.
I love it. Go for it. Shoot.
So what's up with the NAS Rarities, Oddities, and B-Sides playlist?
Oh, hey, just thought it was a cool outlet for people's, less tracks that hadn't seen the daylight. There you go.
So question 2, only 15 seconds, remember, is, sorry, man. What is your favorite song of all time?
Oh, brutal. That's brutal. That's
10
hard.
seconds left.
All time. I got to go with, oh my gosh, Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. It's not, but that's what's coming to mind.
Yeah, it's a good shot, mate. It's still a good track, and you just got in by the buzzer. Yeah.
Oh, that was close. I was waiting. All right. Given your current circumstances and the work you've put in thus far, do you believe that you deserve a shot at greatness?
Never even thought about greatness in this. Probably not yet. But maybe one day.
That's a good answer, mate. Although I would say that you already have achieved greatness, even just by being here today. This is the pinnacle of anyone's career.
It's feeling it.
Yeah.
Love
Especially now we've got the quick fire 5. Not so quick fire because of me.
The fastest speaking person on the show.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll try and slow down, but
there you go.
It's not in my nature. Question 4. What is your favorite quote?
How about, I'll go with Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Love that, man. Straight in there with Gandhi.
Straight in there.
This guy knows his stuff. Yeah.
If you could spend a day with any other NAS artist, who would you pick?
Oh man, there are so many. There's so many people I would love to sit down and have coffee with and jam with and that sort of stuff. That's a tough one. I want to hang with Andreas. I do. I mean, I want to hang with Charles. I want to hang with JHM. I think lots in common. I want to hang with you guys more.
We're cooler than Andres.
That's
and shorter.
I'm starting to see that. And shorter. Yeah. There's so many. I mean, I've connected with so many people that just seem so cool, so into what they're doing. And that's super inspiring. But I'll go with Andreas. I wouldn't mind heading down to Argentina.
Yeah, I like that. Although I am slightly disappointed because last week said Andres as well. So.
At least you got an honorary mention.
Yeah, Michael was good. It was good to watch him. He's another guy I'd love to spend some tons of time with.
He was great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Brad. It's been amazing. So before we wrap up, if you just want to tell everybody where they can find Mercury Teardrop on all your socials, your links, etc.
You betcha. No, that's great. And thanks for having me. Really appreciated the time today. On socials, Twitter, Mercury Teardrop. On Twitter, I think it's just at Mercury Teardrop. And then on Instagram at Mercury Teardrop Official. But really appreciate connecting with folks. Reach out. Happy to collaborate, look at ideas. And you guys, I'm going to send you a track. Got some hip hop stuff going down.
Yeah. Send it on, mate. We'll have a listen. Yeah.
The check too. Yeah.
I will.
And when I said etc. and you said awesome. You betcha, was that a deliberate rhyme? Did you hear that when I said?
I just don't have it in me. So there was, I did. It was not intentional at all. I know. I just don't got game.
When it comes natural,
no game.
It just comes natural. You can't help it.
Yeah, he doesn't even need to think about it.
No game, no soul, all that stuff.
No, you've got a lot, mate. You've got a lot.
Nah, thanks, guys.
We want to thank you for a great chat. And,
thank you.
Of course, man. We enjoyed this one. This was I'm sure when you watch it back, you'll be able to tell we enjoyed this conversation.
Awesome. And me too. Really special. Nice to get to know you better.
Yes, I am. And we want to give a thanks to everybody at home, listening across the world, listening or watching, depending on where you're at. The whole New Artist Spotlight community, our partners, everybody supporting. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Thanks, everyone.